Humans have always believed that we domesticated cats. It sounds reasonable, even obvious. But in reality, cats may be the ultimate strategists that have been playing us for the past 10,000 years. You think you domesticated the cat, but in truth, you're the one being domesticated. Hi everyone, I'm Alia. Today we're going to talk about how cats domesticate you. The story begins in the Neolithic era, in the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East. Humans had just learned agriculture and started storing grain. Granaries meant a stable energy supply. But they also meant an explosion of rodents. And where there are rodents, there is a natural predator, the African wildcat. These cats were never captured, never forced to stay. They approached human settlements on their own. For them, it was an unprecedented ecological niche, high food density, minimal predators. That initial approach has now lasted for 10,000 years. A 2017 study published in Nature Ecology and Evolution, which analyzed ancient cat DNA spanning over 9,000 years, revealed a striking conclusion. The cat lying on your sofa today is genetically very similar to those early African wildcats, almost unchanged. In contrast, dogs underwent dramatic genetic transformations during domestication. Their behavior became dependent, their body forms diversified, and even their brain size decreased. Cats are different. A genetic study from Washington University found that the key genetic changes in cats during domestication are extremely limited, concentrated in just a small number of genes, around a dozen. These changes are mainly related to reduced fear of humans, improved memory for food-related cues, and enhanced reward responses. Beyond that, their hunting instincts, territorial behavior, and solitary nature remain largely intact. What does that mean? It means cats never truly became subordinate to humans. They simply learned how to extract resources from us without fundamentally changing themselves. Science has a term for this relationship: commensal evolution. Put more plainly, cats never intended to work for you. They simply discovered that your species created an incredibly rich environment and chose to move in. What happened next is even more interesting. Cats began to spread. Archaeological evidence shows that around 9,500 years ago, human cat burials already appeared in Cyprus. The curious part is that rodents were not a major issue on the island, yet humans still brought cats with them. This suggests that by then, people were already living with cats not just for utility, but out of preference. Later, as humans entered the age of maritime trade, cats essentially hitched a free ride on a global network. Wherever there was grain, there were rodents. Wherever there were rodents, there were cats. They traveled with ships, spreading across the world and dispersing their genes to every continent except Antarctica. Today, the global population of domestic cats exceeds 600 million. In terms of expansion efficiency, they may have outperformed humans themselves. All of this happened under one condition: cats made almost no fundamental changes for humans. But the most striking part of the story comes next. Cats didn't just remain unchanged, they began to change us. In 2009, behavioral ecologist Karen McComb from the University of Sussex analyzed the vocal frequencies of dozens of cats. She found that a cat's purr is not a simple, uniform sound. When soliciting food, cats produce a special kind of purr that embeds a high-frequency signal within its low-frequency vibration. And that high-frequency component happens to overlap with the frequency range of human infant cries, roughly between 300 and 600 hertz. What does that imply? It means that when you hear the sound, the parts of your brain associated with caregiving are more likely to be activated. In experiments, even people who had never owned a cat showed a strong urge to respond after hearing it. You feel an impulse to feed it, to comfort it, even to believe that it needs you. This is not affection. This is the precise exploitation of biological signals. Even more intriguing, adult cats in the wild rarely meow at each other. They mainly communicate through scent, body posture, and low-frequency sounds. Meowing originally evolved as a signal used by kittens to call their mothers. But during their coexistence with humans, this sound was retained and increasingly refined, eventually evolving into a communication system specifically tailored for humans. In simple terms, Cats learned a new language and one designed just for us. And it doesn't stop at sound. Cats also mark humans through scent. When a cat rubs its head or presses its face against you, it may look like affection, but in reality, it is releasing pheromones. These come from glands in its face and leave scent markers on you. In the cat's cognitive framework, this behavior is closer to claiming ownership than expressing attachment. In the world of cats, there is no concept of owner. There is only territory, and within that territory, beings that provide resources. Now consider a more subtle mechanism. Behaviorist B.F. Skinner introduced the concept of intermittent reinforcement. When a behavior is rewarded not every time, but only occasionally, the brain is far more likely to develop dependency and even addiction. This principle is widely used in gambling and game design. And cats, naturally, operate on this logic. They don't respond to you constantly like dogs do. They are not consistently dependent. Most of the time, they are distant, sometimes even indifferent. But occasionally, they will approach you, interact, offer a moment of closeness that feels rare and special. That unpredictability deepens emotional investment. You feel that moment is yours. But in reality, you are being trained. There is an even deeper mechanism, one that lies within the human brain itself. Humans are naturally drawn to features like large eyes, round faces, and short noses. These traits trigger a strong instinct to protect, an evolutionary mechanism designed to help us recognize and care for infants. And cats, over the course of long-term coexistence with humans, have gradually retained and even amplified these juvenile features. Their facial structure, eye proportions, and behavioral patterns increasingly resemble those of human infants. This is not a coincidence, but an exceptionally efficient adaptive strategy. When you look at a cat, your brain has already made the decision for you. You will protect it. You will care for it. You will invest resources in it, even if it doesn't truly need you. A study published in Nature Communications in 2013 showed that even domestic cats retain a remarkably complete set of survival abilities when removed from human environments. They don't get lost. Instead, they quickly map out their surroundings, identifying hiding spots, pathways, and suitable resting areas. Their ears pick up subtle sounds before anything else, and their bodies respond almost instinctively. They don't need to be taught. They already know. These abilities were never taken away by domestication. By contrast, dogs, after long-term domestication, have developed a much stronger dependence on humans. When completely removed from human environments, they generally face greater challenges surviving independently. That contrast, in itself, says everything. Cats have never handed over their final cards to humans. They simply chose to live alongside us. Today, humans have built an entire system around cats. The pet industry has grown into a $100 billion market, from automatic feeders and smart litter boxes to climate-controlled cat beds, veterinary systems, rescue organizations, and even social media ecosystems driven by cat-related content and emotional projection. We think this exists because of love. But from another perspective, it looks more like a redistribution of resources. A species that has barely altered its own genetic structure has led another. One that calls itself the most intelligent on Earth, to willingly invest time, money, and emotion, even reshaping lifestyles, urban spaces, and value systems. And the most subtle change has already taken place within your body. A 2023 study by Japanese researchers found that when humans interact with cats, the body does not simply enter a relaxed state. Instead, heart rate increases, the autonomic nervous system becomes activated, and the body shifts into a more alert, engaged condition. This response is not anxiety, but rather a kind of physiological readiness, an activated state. Interestingly, this state also shares similarities with how humans respond to infants. Our bodies, it seems, have already been tuned, almost conditioned, to respond to the needs of cats. And perhaps that is the species' greatest strategy of all. No wonder some cat owners jokingly call themselves cat servants. In addition, researchers in Italy have found that cats are capable of reading human emotional cues. When you are tense, irritated, or your voice becomes sharp and hurried, they tend to keep their distance and become more alert. But when you are calm, gentle, and emotionally steady, they are far more likely to approach you and stay close. It is not simply relying on you. It is judging when you are most worth relying on. When you put all of these observations together, they point to a single conclusion. Cats are remarkably precise in how they make use of humans. And if you step back and reconsider everything, an intriguing question emerges. In this 10,000-year relationship, who has really domesticated whom? Cats have never truly been domesticated. They simply recognized the ecological niche that humans provide and stepped into it effortlessly. They kept the instincts of a predator, concealed their claws, and adopted a harmless appearance, making the smallest possible changes for the greatest possible gain. And humans, without even realizing it, have undergone a complete transformation. The next time you bend down to clean its litter box, or get woken up in the middle of the night to open a can of cat food, pause for a moment and ask yourself one question. You think you are taking care of it, but perhaps from 10,000 years ago, it has been training you all along.